I used to believe that love was simple, that honesty and loyalty were natural extensions of intimacy. Her name was Leena, and for years I trusted her completely. We shared laughter, routines, whispered dreams in the quiet hours, and a life that seemed steady from the outside. I never imagined that beneath her smiles and reassurances, she carried secrets that would shatter everything I believed. The first signs were subtle, small contradictions in her stories, unexplained absences, and late-night phone calls that she hurriedly ended when I entered the room. I brushed them off at first, telling myself I was overreacting. Love requires trust, after all, and I wanted to believe in her completely. But intuition is insistent. The unease that had been quietly growing refused to be ignored. The truth revealed itself suddenly. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up with a message from a man I didn't know. The conversation was intimate, ongoing, and unmistakable. My chest tightened, my stomach sank, but I did not react impulsively. Anger is easy. Strategy is difficult. If I wanted justice and to reclaim control over my life, I had to be deliberate, observant, and methodical. I began documenting everything. Dates, messages, calls, receipts, subtle contradictions all became part of a growing ledger of truth. I observed her routines, the behaviors she assumed I wouldn't notice, and every misstep became undeniable evidence. At the same time, I rebuilt myself. I exercised, returned to old hobbies, focused on work projects I had abandoned, and reconnected with friends I had drifted away from. I became calm, deliberate, and focused, the opposite of the chaos her betrayal threatened to create. Weeks passed. Leena continued her deception, confident that love would shield her from consequences. Her arrogance became her weakness. Every slip, every small lie, every careless action became another piece of evidence in the story I was constructing. I realized then that retribution does not need to be dramatic. It only needs to be inevitable. I did not seek public humiliation. That is fleeting and hollow. I wanted consequences that were quiet, precise, and long-lasting. I wanted her to understand the weight of her actions without the distraction of spectacle. I wanted her life to shift in ways that were subtle but undeniable, a reflection of the trust she had violated. The day I decided to act, I created an ordinary evening at home. I cooked her favorite meal, set the table carefully, and played familiar music. The calm, ordinary setting was perfect for the revelation that would dismantle the illusion she had built. I slid the folder containing all the evidence across the table. Her confident smile faltered for the first time in months. I began reading aloud, calmly and deliberately. Dates, messages, calls, receipts, every fact irrefutable. Her composure cracked. She tried to explain, to deflect, to charm, but the evidence was undeniable. Every attempt at denial failed. She had assumed love was a shield, that trust would protect her from consequence. She was wrong. I did not yell. I did not cry. I let the facts speak. Every privilege she had relied upon, my trust, my tolerance, my emotional availability, was withdrawn. The home that had once felt shared became mine again, a space no longer compromised by deceit. I had turned heartbreak into clarity, betrayal into evidence, and deception into empowerment. In the weeks that followed, I reclaimed my life. I strengthened friendships she had neglected, pursued ambitions I had put aside, and rebuilt routines disrupted by her secrets. She attempted to manipulate and charm her way back into influence, but the power she once held over me was gone. Her world, carefully constructed on lies, began to crumble quietly and methodically. Friends and colleagues noticed inconsistencies she could no longer hide, and the foundation she had built on deception eroded inexorably. The satisfaction I felt was subtle but profound. I had loved deeply, been deceived thoroughly, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of my own boundaries. My retribution was not cruel or dramatic. It was the restoration of balance, dignity, and control. I had transformed heartbreak into clarity, betrayal into justice, and deception into empowerment. Months later, my life had regained stability. The apartment that had once felt compromised now felt like home. I rebuilt routines, nurtured relationships, and allowed myself to heal fully. The betrayal that had seemed insurmountable became a lesson in patience, observation, and deliberate action. Leena had hidden a life I did not know existed. She had assumed my love would shield her from accountability. She was wrong. Betrayal had destroyed trust, but retribution rose quietly, inevitably, and with precision. It restored balance, reclaimed dignity, and allowed me to live a life governed by truth rather than deceit. In the end, I learned a crucial lesson. The only power a betrayer truly holds is the power you allow them to wield. By refusing to be powerless, I reclaimed mine. Betrayal is painful, but retribution, calculated, deliberate, and inevitable, can be profoundly satisfying. It is not the infliction of suffering that heals, but the reclamation of control, the restoration of boundaries, and the knowledge that one can rise from betrayal with strength intact. Love had been violated, trust had been shattered, and a life had been disrupted, but through patience, strategy, and quiet retribution, I found empowerment, closure, and the ability to move forward with clarity and dignity. The story she never expected was mine to write, and I wrote it carefully, decisively, and without compromise.